This move is facing pushback from law enforcement officials and gun rights groups. At least 2 organizations have filed lawsuits arguing that it violates the Second Amendment. And over the weekend, some New Mexicans openly defied this mandate during a protest.
We all agree that the governor has overstepped her authority and is actually in violation of the law.
I don't know what her thought process was that she suddenly thought she could trample the Second Amendment.
Joining us now for her first national televised interview since issuing this order is the governor of New Mexico, Michelle Grisham. Governor, thank you for your time this morning. And let's get to exactly that. We just heard from the sheriff. He joins the attorney general and others who say they won't enforce it. It's unconstitutional. Why do it if it can't be enforced?
Well, that's their opinion. They have no bold actions. They don't have any plans for reducing gun violence. Every single aspect in terms of preventing gun violence, funds, crime labs, more than $150 million for retention, bonuses, and recruitment of new police officers. I'm focused on one thing. We have the 3rd highest gun-related injuries in the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, and hope you have a great and wonderful day. And that is, a lot of people being very angry over the New Mexico AG. This is me continuing on the report of how much backlash she's been getting and how she's going to double and triple down on everything that she's been saying over the past, couple of days here. This happened over the weekend, as for some of you guys may have not know, but that's what's been happening. First, we're going to do this here. We have this at the New Mexico AG, Attorney General, says he won't defend governor in lawsuits over ban on carrying guns. So, not even the Attorney General that would most likely side with this goblin creature here is not going to help her in the lawsuits. So she is essentially just being completely destroyed in every way possible. There is nothing that she could possibly do because now she has nobody to defend her. In a letter sent to the New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham on Tuesday, State Attorney General Rod Torres said that his office would not be defending her administration in lawsuits related to her blocking the carrying of firearms. I am writing to inform you that my office will not defend your administration in the above referenced cases challenging the public health emergency order imposing temporary firearm restrictions, drug monitoring, and other public safety measures. 9. The emergency order issued by the Secretary of Health on September 8th, 2023, the letter stated. Though I recognize my statutory obligation as New Mexico's chief legal officer to defend state officials when they are sued in their official capacity, my duty to uphold and defend the constitutional rights of every citizen takes precedence. Torres explained that he was grieved with too many victims of gun violence. As a career prosecutor in the state, not to share your anger and frustration at the unacceptable toll that gun violence has enacted, especially among the youngest members of our community. He recalled the recent deaths of 2 children to gun violence and said this should serve as a wake-up call to everyone. However, I encourage you to engage in more thoughtful and deliberate process with members of the New Mexico legislature rather than taking unilateral action that infringes on the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens while having little, if any, discernible impact on the underlying dynamics driving gun law violence in our community. So, yeah, it seems that a lot of this is just seeming to be a issue for the governor here. It does not seem that anybody wants to really deal with her crap, and nobody is siding with her. So now here is what we would call not the state government, not the AG, but the police chief, pretty much saying that is unconstitutional. Take a look.
I hold my standards high, and I do not or never will hedge on what is right. And I take my oath seriously. In reference to concealed carry and open carry, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order. While I understand the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do. The governor made it clear in her press conference. She knew we as law enforcement did not agree with the order, and as a result, this was solely her decision. Other than this ban being unconstitutional, here are other reasons why I will not enforce the order. One, what many forget, is I have enough violence here in Bernalillo County. I do not want to have political violence towards my deputies or here in Bernalillo County. My job is to keep the peace and to make sure that the citizens of Bernalillo County are safe, and I do not believe that this order will help me do so. I'm a law enforcement professional. This order will not do anything to curb gun violence other than punish law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. Let me give you a personal story. Last week, as I'm sitting here as the sitting sheriff, I get a phone call that my brother also was a victim of gun violence last week that many of you do not know. While he and my nephew were sitting in their car, they were shot at and their vehicle was impacted by numerous rounds. How can I, as a sheriff, tell him to put his firearms away and not be able to protect himself?
I don't 100% agree with this, with the sheriff here. That if she thinks that to be able not to be that banning guns is going to be is good to protect people, but it does the exact opposite. It does not protect people. It opens the door for you to be actually attacked in every which way possible. And of course, if people haven't known, even what Hitler did, they decided to take away all the people's guns because, you know, they take away your guns, they have more full power over you. It's kind of obvious on what they want to do here. It's not really a surprise. So yeah, even the office sheriff does not want to participate in this at all and has sound reasonings. Her reasonings are not any bit sound. And what we have here is that we see her that she wants to triple down on everything that is going on, even after the Attorney General and the Sheriff says, no, we're not going to do this here. We're not going to follow your instructions. Take a look.
We have the third highest gun-related injuries in the country, 90% higher than the national average. We lost 143 children between 2017 and 2021. It is unacceptable, and it calls for immediate and swift and bold action. And frankly, the evidence bears out over and over again. Fewer guns on the streets makes everyone safer, and I'm focused on everyone's constitutional rights, not just those the NRA says I should be focused on.
Yeah, it's not just the NRA. Here's one other concern from the sheriff. Here's what he told my colleague Caitlin Collins last night.
In a couple of months or a year down the road, we're the ones stuck in court, and we're the ones getting sued over all of these infringement of rights and all these other court battles when I could be focusing so much more on crime.
Has any law enforcement officer in Albuquerque or the county actually enforced this yet?
Well, we haven't issued any civil penalties, but that doesn't mean that we're not and that we don't have the ability to do that.
But that's a no, right?
This is the pushback I get from every single, well, it's a no this minute, but that doesn't mean that we aren't, and it doesn't mean that we don't have additional police presence. And if not this bold action, making sure that you're safe going to the grocery store, you're safe going to a baseball game, you're safe walking on a hiking trail. There are individuals, including young people, where it's illegal today to have a handgun. Openly carrying handguns. My question to law enforcement is, where are you? In that young 11-year-old, Froylin Villegas, 17 rounds were fired into that gun. 35,000 rounds are fired at least annually in Albuquerque alone. You are not safe going to work, getting your prescription drugs, or going to a public park. And it wasn't just about a cooling off period. It's about making sure that everyone is safer while we do bolder work to get at both the drug epidemic and the gun violence epidemic.
Look,
and it's not for police to tell me what's constitutional or not. They haven't supported not one gun violence effort in the state of New Mexico, including domestic violence protections, universal background checks. And I know you want to ask me a question, so I'll take a breath, but these are NRA talking points about their rights and not about anybody else's. And it's not a ban. It's a temporary pause so that we can make this community safer.
Okay, there is a huge problem on what I have her saying here. So you remember when she particularly said that the police are not doing their job and they're not putting people in jail and stuff like that? Well, you conniving bitch, you evil person, and you lying piece of shit. That's exactly what they're trying to do, but you're putting in laws that is preventing them from either doing their job or they're getting released really early out into the actual public. So they are doing their job. It's just your policies is actually preventing them or not, or making these criminals get out earlier. That's straight up what it happens to have here. All right. So again, I sourced this back in my video last week of, all the policies and bills that she signed that pretty much counterclaims exactly what she's saying here. So again, I will go back here to the bills that she signed and the things that are doing here. So, New Mexico has one of the highest rates of police killings in this country, which Valdez said is an issue of the public safety and officer safety. So, what we have here is that Lieutenant Graham on Tuesday signed into law Senate Bill 19 and Senate Bill 252, which establishes a statewide use of force standard for all police in New Mexico and requires new training policies and procedures for the New Mexico Department of Safety, a division that oversees the New Mexico State Police. SB 19 and SB 252 were combined into one piece of legislation, and both bills got significantly reduced as a result. So, pretty much saying she is causing all these other issues. So, again, when we want to talk about the actual issues here at hand, right, where have issues. So the bill 306, which would make it a crime to buy a firearm for another person who is convicted of a felony or intends to use a gun in furtherance of any crime involving a gun. House Bill 357, which would create new funds to hire more police, prosecutors, public defenders, and jail and prison guards. House Bill 139, which would eliminate state-mandated post-adjudicated fees assessed in criminal and traffic cases. So these are just the bills that are sitting on the governor's desk right now, which have not done anything. So, by the way, here's the great thing here. Bill 306, which would make it a crime to buy a firearm for another person or is convicted of a felony or intends to use the gun in furtherance of any crime involving a gun, that's sitting on her desk right now. That should be automatic on the record for her to do it. So, by the way, Governor, sweetheart, dumbass, why is this not already in place? The police cannot enforce a law that is not a law by jurisdiction or by anything that's not actually law yet. So you need to cite in that bill. You have the 252, which is, obviously that's causing other problems. Then, drug possession. The 187 that will no longer allow courts to count a drug possession charge or a WI charge from another jurisdiction considering sentencing someone as a habitual offender. And 684 bill, the Bill 84, would revise the state's probation and parole system and tie punishments to the severity of the violation, and rather than the crime, then originally sent to the prison. So again, you are the actual cause of the reason why police cannot do things, you stupid idiot. You are backpedaling, not trying to get accountability, and blaming others for your complete neglect for the people in your own state. Plain and simple. The police are trying to do something. You're just not allowing them to. And I think we have this here as well, is that group sues after New Mexico governor suspends right to carry guns in Albuquerque in public. Yeah, so she's already, as we can see here, she's already getting sued. So, again, somebody please tell me on what she does here. And let's do this. New Mexico, I'm pretty sure, also defunded the police. So no, she didn't actually defund police. However, she did do blast Lieutenant Grisham for defunding police ad. And we see this here. Mark Rocchetti is promising to defund the police. And all this other stuff. And then we have this here. Fact check, we go down here. And then the further addressing the issue of police defunding toward the end of Christian Nigeria states that the governor didn't defund the police. She is doing the exact opposite. The policy of defunding the police has been a key point of concentration between Democrats and Republicans through the national 2022 midterm election cycle. So she hasn't defunded, but she did post an ad, or one of her cohorts posted an ad for defunding the police. So again, as I said before, it is all her fault. All this stuff is happening, and you need to do something about it. You need to stop putting these anti-gun policies. You need to stop putting these anti-criminal policies so you can actually help your citizens. And by the way, if you remove somebody's defensive weapon and they get attacked, what happens to that person? Just let me know. If you remove their right to actually defend themselves, let's remove the guns from the case. like a knife, a sword, or any weapon that defends themselves, what happened to them? Do they not get killed or something worse, or the highest thing being killed? What would happen to them? You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot, and everybody is against you, and it's about time that it happened. You face the consequences, and you're worried, but you might not be governor anymore. Alright guys, that's the video. Like to share. As always, take care.